In Parshat Vayigash, after Yosef reveals himself to the brothers and tells them to go and come down, bring all their families, and to get Yaakov and to come down to Mitzrayim, and they go back, and Yaakov's finally convinced after seeing the wagons that Yosef is indeed still alive, and he's about to go down to Mitzrayim. And there's an interesting pasuk that says, "Vayisa Yisrael v'kol asher lo vayavo be'er sheva vayizbach zvachim elokei aviv Yitzchak," which means that Yaakov and all he had, he traveled, and he came to Be'er Sheva, and he brought sacrifices to the God of his father Yitzchak. Now, this might not seem odd to say the God of his father Yitzchak, but if you're familiar with the stories before, let's start with the first time that we hear God speak to Yaakov. It's after he's fleeing from Esav, having stolen the bracha. He's a young man. He's fleeing to the house of Lavan, and it's when he has the dream with the ladder and the angels going up and down. And God appears to him, and he says, "I am the God of your father Abraham and the God of Yitzchak." Now, Abraham was his grandfather, but he says, "Your father Abraham," which is his grandfather, and the God of Yitzchak, where it doesn't even say father. And then in another crucial point in Yaakov's time, when he was in the house of Lavan many years, has now 4 wives and 12 children, and he's about to come back. He's on his way back, and he's going to meet Esav, and he's fearing for his life. He is really scared, and he prays to God. There it says, the God of his father Abraham and the God of his father Yitzchak. There it says his father, both for Abraham and for Yitzchak. And here it doesn't mention Abraham at all, and it's just Avi Yitzchak. So it is strange as compared to the other times. Why does it just say that here? And I think that each time that it says what it says, there's a reason. When I think the Torah says his father, it's trying to show something that Yaakov had gotten, either you can say genetically or by learned behavior, but something that came from either his father or his grandfather that made this person the more dominant father figure for Yaakov at the time. It was more how Yaakov perceived God. And the first time, I think when he was a young man and he was just leaving his house, his perception of what God either is or should be was on the level of chesed, like Abraham. Abraham, as we know, was the person who, when we talk about chesed, we say Abraham represents chesed. And I think that's how he understood how God worked in this world until then. And then after he went through many, many ordeals in his life with living with Lavan for all those years, he started to understand God more as the God of Din, the God that represents the God of Yitzchak. And after all that he went through, even when he's crossing the river and he prays to God at that time when it says Father of Abraham and Father Yitzchak, that's when he says the words "Katanti mikol hachasadim umikol ha'emet." Chasadim, from all the chesed, I am humbled by all of the chesed, which represents his understanding of God of chesed, which is Abraham, and from all the emet. Emet, truth, is resembled din, the father being Yitzchak. So now he understands God on both levels. He sees God in his life functioning and interacting with him in both chesed, in both this great kindness, and also with din, with judgment, strict judgment. And he sees both of these facets in his life at that point in time. But now, Yaakov, after thinking that Yosef had been dead for all these years, And he had just learned now that Yosef really is alive. He now is understanding something for the first time that he didn't understand before. And this is something that Yitzchak really represents. Yitzchak, we know Yitzchak, when we think of him, we think of a Akedah Yitzchak. That is what we think of right away. And what's with Akedah Yitzchak is that Yitzchak thought at the Akedah for one moment, it was like his life was gone. He had this kind of belief that everything was gone and there was no future. But in that scenario where God said, no, no, do not, Avram, don't kill Yitzchak, and there was, they saw the ram stuck in the thickets, then he once again regained his life. And I think this is something that Yaakov felt right now. He thought that his whole life, he thought his whole future, because his future we know is in Yosef. When it says Ela Toldot Yaakov, it says Yosef. These are, and Toldot is usually seen as it gives all the children and all the lineage once it says Ela Toldot. But with Yaakov, it doesn't do that. It just says Ela Toldot Yaakov, Yosef. Yosef, he saw his whole future. When he thought Yosef was dead, he thought his whole future was gone, like an Akedah, like Akedah Yitzchak. And then when right now he found out that he was really alive, it was like the whole scenario of Akedah Yitzchak, right there. Like he thought Yosef was dead, and here, no, Yosef was indeed alive, indeed with the future. And I think when he was about to go down to Mitzrayim, and it says that he stopped in Be'er Sheva, very interesting. After Akedah Yitzchak, it says that Abraham went back to Be'er Sheva. It doesn't mention that Yitzchak went back. It said Abraham and his Narav went back to Be'er Sheva. Yitzchak didn't, apparently. So now Yaakov's going to Be'er Sheva, and it says his father Yitzchak here. I think it's a connective point. I think it's him understanding this connection that he didn't understand before, that had to do with his father Yitzchak's relationship with Abraham, something he didn't understand. He just sees, we as children, we're born and we see our parents and their relationship with their parents, and we don't understand why are our parents doing this, why are they acting that way, why is this, certain things, the relationship. It's because we don't understand, because we didn't experience what they experienced, and we don't understand how they relate to their parents. I think now first Yaakov is understanding how Yitzchak and Abraham relate. He's seeing things from Yitzchak's point of view now, and he's going to go down and see his son Yosef, and he's trying to keep that in mind, that the story is not just how he perceives it, of his loss, of what he perceives his loss of Yosef. There's a whole Yosef's end to it. Like just with Akedah Yitzchak, it's not just about, we always think about Abraham, it's just about this test for Abraham, but there's a whole side for Yitzchak himself that he experienced that affected his relationship with his father. And now Yaakov has to keep that in mind. He's going down, he's going to see Yosef, that Yosef has a whole perspective as a son who hasn't been with his father, as a son who might have been sacrificed for all these years. And when he's going to go meet him, he's trying to keep that perspective as well, that it's not just about him and what he feels, but how what Yosef had to go through also. And I think that that's really important, especially for him going down out of Eretz Yisrael into Egypt, that he has to keep in mind when he sees Yosef as not a judgment for who he is at that point, but a collection of his experiences. And now he's connecting with his father in that whole new way of understanding. And that's why I think it says Elokei Yitzchak at this point. And that we should know in life, I think it's just so important that we see things sometimes based on only our understanding from one side, either being the child or either being the parent. But there are two sides. And unless we've experienced the same exact thing as either that child or that parent, we shouldn't judge the relationship or what's going on or how they act, because we just don't know. And I think that's a very healthy thing to keep in mind in order to keep a good relationship with both parents and children. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.